Listen up, because I'm only going to say this once. Every child you bring into this world is another anchor weighing down our sinking ship, another match tossed onto the bonfire roaring across the planet, another coin dropped into the blood-soaked fountain of suffering. You think you're doing something noble by propagating your DNA, by creating tiny carbon bombs with cheeks so rosy you'd swear they'd fix the melting glaciers and collapsing ecosystems? Guess again. More people means more cars spewing fumes, more grocery aisles packed with plastic packages, more strip malls sprawling over vital wetlands, more demand for beef that turns rainforests into desert and oceans into dead zones. Want fewer oil spills, fewer forest fires, fewer droughts so brutal they crack the Earth's crust? Don't have kids. Every time someone trots out the tired argument, but we need workers to support pensions. Watch them trip over their own hypocrisy. You want a stable economy? You want robust social safety nets? You want medical care, pensions, infrastructure that doesn't collapse like a house of cards at the first breeze? Then arrest the birth rate now, and you'll see per capita resources stretch farther, funds reallocated from ever-expanding school budgets to quality programs, from endless hospital wings built to treat newborns to elder care wings built to treat those who built the world you're trampling. It makes zero sense to prop up an endless conveyor belt of newborns just so a fraction of them might carry the tax burden for the rest of us decades from now, especially when automation, AI, and robotics are gobbling up those jobs anyway. Reduce the population, raise wages, improve living standards. That is the equation, and it does not include more babies. Look at our cities, choked highways, subways so crowded you've got no room to breathe, skyscrapers erected like tombstones alongside forgotten slums. Every extra body is another burden on public health, on housing affordability, on public transit. Feel proud that your uterus is a public nuisance? Congratulations, you've just created hundreds of thousands of square feet of slum housing and a lifetime subscription to income inequality. Stop birthing into an already overcrowded world, and suddenly landlords have to compete for tenants, not the other way around. Gentrification slows, urban blight reverses. Public services, roads, sewers, parks get a fighting chance at maintenance rather than collapse. But children bring joy, you squeal, clutching your baby blanket like a security talisman. Joy? Try diaper blowouts at 3 a.m. while mortgage payments and student loans stack higher than your newborn's nursery crib. Joy a 2-year-old's tantrum tearing through the grocery store aisle, knocking cans of beans like bowling pins. Joy the existential dread that your offspring will inherit a planet lurching toward terminal collapse, that they'll grow up chasing air conditioners and bottled water because rivers no longer exist. Is that the joy you envy? Spare me. The fleeting serotonin spike of a cooing infant doesn't outweigh a lifetime of climate anxiety, of watching coastal cities slip beneath the rising seas. Speaking of climate, you anti-natalists out there aren't virtue signaling. You're clarifying reality. It doesn't matter how many wind farms you build or how many electric cars you promote if there are more consumers demanding more energy. Every baby is a lifetime of incremental carbon emissions, up to hundreds of tons of CO2 for each child in a developed country. Multiply that by the global birth rate, and you've got an inferno bright enough to light the night skies of Mars. No more births means no more incremental footprints. We'd slash emissions overnight and give engineering a fighting chance to catch up. But then nobody would be around to appreciate art, science, culture, say the doomsayers, their voices quivering like they're auditioning for a romantic comedy. I'll tell you what, the peaks of human creativity aren't measured by head count. The towering legacies of Nietzsche and Lovelock and Ada Lovelace aren't propped up by children. They stand alone, monuments of intellect and courage. Would you rather be remembered as a cog in the churning machine of overpopulation, or as the solitary mind who reshaped reality? No new births frees up resources for education, for research grants that tackle real problems, instead of shuffling more kids into useless degree programs for jobs that vanish at the speed of technological change. Let's talk inequality. More people only deepens the gap between the haves and the have-nots. More children in poor communities means more poverty traps, more welfare burdens, more ghettos carved into our cities. Crime ticks upward, prisons overflow, you paramedics and social workers burn out in record time. The simple math is inescapable. Zero births equals no new victims in that cycle. Clean, elegant, effective. The minute you agree to stop procreation, you defund child poverty by default. And what about love? You whine, blinking through parental goggles. Love is not a newborn. Love is the connection you foster with those already alive, the elders whose wisdom could guide us if only we listened, the neighbors whose gardens need tending, the global community dying to solve pandemics and landslide elections. Spare those lives overcrowding for a few dozen cherubic tear ducts. Love is action, not reproduction. Love is universal health care, not universal boob juice handouts. You think the world's ills would vanish if we simply replaced the powerless and the wise with a fresher, cuter generation? How about I remind you that newborns don't vote, don't organize unions, don't protest injustices. They're busy existing in the sensory deprivation chamber of infancy while executives expand carbon mining concessions. It's the adults who act, who legislatively shape our future, who mobilize movements. We need more adult thinkers and activists, not more gurgling liabilities. It's time to dethrone the sacred cow of reproduction at all costs. Stop cowering behind, but babies are the future platitudes when the future looks like a war zone of water shortages, food riots, mass migrations, and authoritarian crackdowns. Babies are not guaranteed saviors. Babies are another variable in the equation, and at our current altitude, that variable is dragging us into the abyss. Every child you decide not to have is a vote for a sustainable future. It's a direct line in the sand. No more. It's not selfish, it's the ultimate act of responsibility. Those who call antinatalism cold ignore the reality that forced existence is the cruelest fate imaginable. You don't get to opt out of life. Life opts in on you the moment your genes spark. To refuse reproduction is to grant non-existence to someone who cannot ask for it, to spare them from suffering you can't justify. If you're sick of activists who rail against shark finning in sweatshops but clog the planet with screaming infants, here's your rallying cry. Down with baby factories! If you hate fossil fuels yet subsidize your own children's lifetime of consumption, you're part of the hypocrisy. If you lament inequality while expanding the global debtor army of tuition loans and student debt serfs, you're fueling it. Own your values, live child-free, or accept that values are just convenient marketing copy for your DNA's vanity project. Sure, some will bark about extinction or social collapse if humanity stops procreating. That's fantasy lobbyist talk for corporations terrified of shrinking markets. Extinction? If we stop having kids today, humanity phases out in 3 generations, about a century. Given the timeline of our environmental meltdown, that's a mercy ending, not apocalypse. And social collapse? I prefer a controlled descent into gratitude and innovation over a chaotic race toward overheated hell. Look at countries already teetering on negative growth. Japan, Italy, South Korea, their quality of life indexes are through the roof. They're leading in robotics, elder care, healthcare outcomes, urban cleanliness, social trust. They figured out that fewer people means more prosperity per person. They pay youthfulness in experience, not in cribs. They learn to sustain rather than expand. That's the roadmap. Maximize well-being per capita, minimize reckless multiplication. So here's the bottom line. No more babies, no more problems. Want to fix climate change? Stop breeding carbon units. Want to solve poverty? Stop creating generational welfare dependence? Want to halt species collapse? Stop demanding new cropland every spring. Want to end wars over water and food? Stop stockpiling mouths to feed? Want to lessen police violence? Stop birthing the next cohort of marginalized urban youths? Want better public health? Stop birthing new hosts for viruses? Want stable pensions? Stop birthing new debt obligations? This is not hyperbole, it's arithmetic, and it's the starkest solution on the table. So strap in, face reality. Procreation is the master key turning on every calamity's engine. Pull that key out, and the engine's shut down. I don't care if your grandmother fainted at the mere thought of an empty rocking chair. Tough. Nostalgia is the opiate of the uncreative. History's great minds didn't leave legacies through descendants. They left them through ideas. Stravinsky had no children. His music still resonates. Lovelace had no heirs. Her code echoes in every computer chip. Tesla left no lineage, but his inventions propelled modernization. You think you're building a family? You're doing the same outdated breeding ritual that's landed us on death's doorstep. It's time for radical clarity. If you love your planet, refuse reproduction. If you love humanity, reduce it. If you love life, spare future lives from this horror show. Not having kids isn't regret. It's the greatest gift you can give to your conscience, to your community, to the continents gasping for relief. It is not a denial of hope. It is the purest form of hope for a world unburdened by newness, where the existing can thrive rather than be crushed under the weight of the unborn. Stop complaining. Stop hypocritical virtue. Stop coasting on empty promises of renewable dreams while you pump out another generation of resource mongers. Live the radical consistency you preach. No kids. Witness the world breathe easier. Watch progress finally outpace destruction, and know that you alone rewrote the rules. You are not missing out. You are sparing all of us, maybe even saving us. That is the ultimate act of courage. That is the only solution that actually scales. And to anyone who dares to call you cold, remind them, a warm planet is only possible if it's not overpopulated. No kids, no problems, nothing simpler, nothing truer.